The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised.
Man, we're due for a fucking another Flintstones movie, aren't we? It's been a while. Like a theatrical movie.
Dig up John Goodman wherever he's buried.
He's alive.
John Goodman's alive.
I know.
I feel like most of him is missing now since he lost all that weight, but he's still alive.
He's the shell of a man.
He's a good man.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, a proud member of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network.
Well, howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your source for all your animation news and reviews. My name is Matt. Right over there is my friend and fellow co-host, Kyle.
Yippee skippy.
And our other co-host, JD, unfortunately is not going to be able to make it to this episode, but our good friend Aiden has returned to the podcast. He's gracing us with his presence to talk about this week's topic.
I just have to say, Matt, as an actual Southerner, that accent kind of killed me inside. I'm kidding, obviously.
Well,
Yeah.
how Southern are you talking about? Because we're Southern Californian. That's
I mean,
that's true.
I'm from Arkansas. We're really Southern. We's the kind of like hillbilly folk.
I didn't meant no offense, Aiden.
Don't worry, I'm probably offending people as well. But I'm from here, so I can do it.
Right. So anyway, yeah. Our topic for this week is Rango. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary, or I guess it celebrated its 10th anniversary earlier in the month, roughly around then. Yeah, originally came out in 2011. Movie is directed by Gore Verbinski, who is mostly well known for doing the English remake of The Ring from 2002, and then for doing the original 3 movies in the Pirates of the Caribbean series, so that first trilogy, and also infamously known for directing The Lone Ranger.
Ooh.
Which is another movie with Johnny Depp, as is the Pirates of the Caribbean movies as well. So that's something that they share in common with Rango, since Johnny Depp is the main role in this as well. It's weird. Even back when it came out, Rango seemed like a weird oddity. Like, it didn't seem like other animated films at the time, or at least ones that I hadn't seen up until then, because this movie is done by Nickelodeon, and typically, I don't know, Nickelodeon animation movies, they go on to have like series or like I know that like for when they did the Jimmy Neutron movie, they eventually had a show that came from that.
I would say that Nickelodeon movies are a lot more, I guess the word would be kitschy. Very much made for like a very young audience. Obviously you've got like stuff like Jimmy Neutron and Barnyard, which ended up becoming shows in and of themselves. And then you've got like the Rugrats movies. But then on top of that, you also have just their assortment of live action movies, none of which are very good.
And now, hang on, I wouldn't go necessarily that far. I mean, have you seen Good Burger?
Okay, Good Burger gets a pass, but I don't think it really makes up for the fucking Hotel for Dogs.
Did they do that?
Yeah, they did that.
Oh,
or
God.
like Cheaper by the Dozen.
Did they do that too? Oh my God.
Or God, what? Dang it! Or that Lemony Snicket live action movie that was so bad that Lemony Snicket himself just refused to ever acknowledge it.
Is that movie bad? I always heard. Well, okay. I guess with the new show out, it's less of a like good adaptation of those. I guess
as far as like an adaptation of the source material, it is not good.
I imagine they try to just cram too much shit into one movie.
Yeah, pretty much. But like the ones, but then there's Rango, and Rango is like the biggest outlier in every one of Nickelodeon's filmography. Because, well, first of all, this movie. Let's just put cards on the table. This movie's great.
Well,
this movie is very good. Oh.
Also, let me stop you there for a second. There was also Nacho Libre, which was also pretty damn good.
Oh, did they do fucking? That's crazy. There's some of these movies I didn't realize Nickelodeon did. Because when I think of like Nickelodeon movies, or at least as far as live action shit, I think of stuff like specifically from my childhood. I think of Good Burger. I think of Harriet the Spy. I think Clock Stoppers, Snow Day.
Dude, they did the Ninja Turtles movie too. So
the CG one, right?
no, the live
Oh,
action one with Megan Fox.
Right, the 2 live action ones, right.
Oh god, that was
Now, I never saw the second one of those, but I enjoyed that first one. I thought it was pretty good.
And they also did Tintin.
Did they really? Holy shit.
So wrap your mind around that shit.
They've done a lot of fucking movies lately. However, out of all of them, I'd say this is undeniably the best.
Yeah, no, I mean it's an amazing movie. Like
it's up there.
Yeah. Like I said, when I was doing the sort of deep dive on the production notes for this, I was surprised by a lot of the stuff I found out. This was the first fully animated movie by Industrial Lights and Magic. Because of course you always hear their name thrown around as doing visual effects for all the most iconic movies in Hollywood, but like this was their very first like work on a fully animated movie. So that was definitely interesting. Paramount Animation as the animation division of Paramount, specifically Paramount Animation, was founded specifically because of how well Rango did, and because their distribution deal with DreamWorks was ending in about a year anyway. So the Paramount Animation was created just a few months later in the year 2011, and of course they've gone on to do like the latter 2 SpongeBob movies, and then some other stuff too. I think they're doing Rumble and some of those stuff coming out. We were talking about this before the recording, so we're all aware of it. But this movie is pretty unconventional in the way that it was kind of created, because I'm assuming that there were actual like storyboards that they followed and stuff. But as far as visual reference for the film, they had all the actors that were in the movie, like Johnny Depp, Alfred Molina, Bill Nighy, all them. All the actors were like dressed up in costumes, and like they were actually on physical sets, and they filmed everything like in the same orientation and the way that they were shot in the film. And that was how actually their voices were recorded for the film as well. They said that they did that specifically so that it could lead to like sort of improvisation of lines and that sort of thing. It's certainly interesting to watch. I know that you could find it pretty easily on YouTube, like those scenes that they filmed the live action stuff for. But I believe what this means is that there is a cut of the movie out there that is just all in live action, and I feel like that should be the next big hashtag Twitter does to like bully Hollywood into releasing like an alternate cut of a movie.
Hashtag release the live action Rango cut.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I think it'd be great.
But it's interesting you bring up the way that they handled the animation of this film, because one thing I really love about this movie is that the acting in it is so much more. It just feels so natural. Like fucking Johnny Depp as the main character Rango. Just man, this is probably I think my favorite role that Johnny Depp's ever done. Like the way he sells his character is just it's so fun.
Yeah.
Very like I love how like especially at the beginning of the film, that entire just like monologue before the film even properly starts,
where he's doing the whole actor bit. Yeah,
is just man, that was great.
That's the interesting thing about this movie is the main character doesn't even have a name until like half the movie, and he made it up himself.
I think that it's great too. It's like it's almost a reference to Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name, in that the character just doesn't have a name and he just takes his name from a fucking bottle of cactus juice.
Yeah, because it says like made in Durango, and so like his fingers covering up the do part, so he just calls himself Rango. Yeah, I mean, there's very clearly like a ton of influence seen here from classic Hollywood, cowboy, old West movies. You've got
there's a lot of these scenes and shots where it's like you can definitely tell that they did their homework in regards to like making making a Western movie.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of shots in this movie that seem like it was filmed for 3D, and I'm wondering, was this movie made with 3D in mind? Because there's a lot of stuff flying at the screen and stuff.
I can't remember if this movie was released in 3D. I saw this movie in the theater when it came out. I don't recall seeing it in 3D if it was an option. And usually I go for that. I went for that sort of thing back then. I could be wrong, but maybe they had plans for it at some point. But yeah, no, I don't recall actually.
Weird.
Well, now Aiden, so you said this was your first time seeing this movie.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've never seen Rango up to this point. I almost feel ashamed for that because, yeah, no, like I remember seeing the advertisement for this movie all the time, and I heard people talk. I heard like maybe one other person talk about it, but like as a kid, it just never really looked like the kind of movie I would enjoy, especially since it was Nickelodeon, and by that point, it was like a Nickelodeon film. Yeah, I'll pass.
That's fair.
And like, yeah, no, this movie, but yeah, talk about blowing away expectations.
Well, this movie's like not the traditional Disney or DreamWorks movie. It's kind of really fucking ugly.
Honestly, this is
like
a film.
good way.
This is like
that's what I
not
mean.
the kind of film you'd expect a mainstream production house like Nickelodeon to actually make. It especially in regards to it being an animated film, it feels more like the kind of lesser known animated films that like that animated film nerds will go off about, but like the general public don't know anything about.
Yeah, and especially in regards to content too, because I mean, there's a lot of like real firearms. There's a lot of swearing. There's a lot of smoking. Actually, I have a note on that too. Apparently, back when this was released, there's a Sacramento-based anti-smoking organization called Breathe California, and along with like some other anti-smoking organizations, they petitioned to have this movie's rating bumped up from a PG to an R because there's at least 60 instances of smoking in the movie. Clearly they weren't successful, but I think the idea that they wanted to bump up the movie from a PG to an R just because there's smoking in the movie is it's so ridiculous that it must be true.
It is very funny, but that being said, this movie does everything it can to push its PG rating. I mean, I can't remember too many animated films, especially filmed at the time, where that has like character body counts.
Yeah.
This is a Wild West. Those are real guns. People, they are actually dying.
Yeah. I think this movie looks fantastic still after 10 years. I mean, like, you look at Toy Story from now and it looks fucking awful like the first one. But, I mean, like, this was from 10 years ago and it still looks amazing. Like,
hey, there's a reason why there's a reason why Industrial Lights and Magic has magic in the name. I mean...
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, like the stylization of this whole film is very, very nice.
Yeah,
there's an art book too, and I was thinking about picking it up.
Ooh, that'd be a good get.
That'd be really good get.
Yeah. So what we're talking about mainly is if you haven't seen this film, it's a film that maybe has like 3 human characters you can really see, but they're mostly 2 of them are relegated to a quick cameo, and then one's on screen for like maybe 2 minutes. But the movie predominantly is ruled by animal characters, and not animal characters in the sense like a Zootopia or something where they're kind of like more anthropomorphized. I mean, they are a little bit here, but they're mostly look like they're actual species of animal they are. So like Rango is a chameleon, right? Or an iguana.
Yeah, he's a chameleon. It's the eyes.
Yeah, so chameleon, and then like you've got like jackrabbits and crows and snakes and toads and turtles and stuff, owls.
There is something I want to bring. Well, go on.
I was going to point out one of the.
Kyle, you go.
I was going to say there is something I wanted to bring up. There's some weird instances with the animals that kind of don't make sense in a way. So the shot with the bean right into your stagecoach, there's a pig pulling it, and it's like a baby pig almost. That's kind of like the deed or whatever. And in another scene, there's like an anthropomorphized pig as a blacksmith working,
Huh.
It starts some weird shit like that. So there's also a giant hawk that kind of terrorizes the area, but then there's like a cat creature, and you would think he's kind of acting afraid of the hawk. There's some like weird instances where it doesn't add up too much, but I don't think it hurts.
Do you happen to remember? There's an image that always goes around online of like it's a screen cap from like a Donald Duck comic, and it's Donald and some other duck character, and the Donald has like a shotgun, and like he's up with the character, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go duck hunting," and he was like, "Well, why me? I'm domesticated."
Yeah.
So it's just I would just attribute it to the fact that there's like feral animals and there's domesticated animals, I guess.
That's what's weird, because like the whole hawk thing, the hawk seems like it has intelligence.
Right. There's a whole scene there where he actually like puts a quarter in a vending machine and like presses the numbers to try to get Rango out.
Yeah. Like
You'd be surprised how intelligent hawks are. Like, one bit that I thought was really neat was early on in the movie where Rango's running away from the hawk in the desert. He hides inside of like an empty Coke bottle, and the hawk like picks it up and with its talons and flies up into the sky and drops it down. And I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool, because that's like a thing that actual hawks do.
Yeah. Or it's mostly like they do it to like animals, right? Like
they do it like that's one of the ways hawks get around turtles.
That's what it was. Yeah.
We call it their counterplay.
Yeah.
Jeremy Snow here, owner and editor-in-chief of The Geekly Grind. I'm interrupting your awesome, regularly scheduled programming to ensure that you know about our Geekly Grind podcast network, of which this show is a treasured member of. If you haven't had a chance to check out our site, you can do so at www.thegeeklygrind.com, and while you're there, check out the other members of our steadily growing podcast family, including the anime-centric Blake and Spencer Get Jumped, discovering new heroes and comic book keepers with Chris and Lance, exploring the vast universe of geekdom with Geeksploration, or of course appreciating animation's finer details with the Ink and Paint Club. Escape your weekly grind at The Geekly Grind.
But yeah, no, it's like there's the characters for the most part are domesticated animals, but they look like the actual animals that they're based on. And
there's a few instances where, like, especially in like big crowd shots, where like you've got a lot of characters that are very clearly based on the animals, but then you've got some that it's just like, I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to be, but I like how it looks, and it looks cool.
Yeah. No, like Kyle said, I mean, all the characters in this movie, they look ugly, but I mean, they in a very good way. They look very stylized, and they look like, as far as character design and stuff, they're just like they're top-notch character design. It fits the whole aesthetic of the location and the setting.
Yeah, it's Old West, and usually that's like the dingiest, dirtiest type of people and shit. So
yeah.
Having like really dingy, dirty looking animals. I mean, you have rabbits where they're missing their ears and stuff, and it's so on brand for
one of my
what they're
favorite
trying
character
to sell.
designs. One of my favorite designs in the whole movie is the bird that has just a fucking arrow going through his head, coming from his eye and ending at the back of his head.
Right.
Just, damn. Dude's been through some shit.
They make a couple jokes about that.
He was in the Civil War, wasn't he?
That's what he's dressed up like, yeah. And then was it they made the joke like Rango brings up like the eye thing, and like he talks about heterochromia or something in his other eye, and then there's a bit later where they're doing like the Shakespeare ploy, and like he's Rango's like, oh, he was shot by Cupid. like Jesus Christ.
Also, one other little animal thing I really find amusing, their analog for horses in this are roadrunners, and I just think that's really amusing.
Oh, is that what they were?
Yeah, they're roadrunners.
Look at the pictures. It's literally the last one right there.
No, it's just I've never seen what a real roadrunner looked like. My only reference is fucking the Roadrunner, from fucking Looney Tunes. Because I thought they were just some sort of weird like chicken or something, like, which I guess is, not entirely inaccurate.
Next, you're gonna say you'd never seen a Tasmanian devil.
I mean, I've never seen a bandicoot.
Yeah, I'll just skip the next thing I was gonna say then. Yeah, so actually, we kind of touched about some stuff that's in the movie as far as the plot's concerned, but on the whole, the plot of the movie is, Rango is like, he's like, the movie starts out and he's sort of like putting on like a one-man play with like, little figures and stuff. You kind of just get an idea of like who his character is. Like, he's an actor, he likes playing parts and stuff. Something goes wrong, like the car hits an armadillo on the road, and then he gets sort of separated from the family, and then the rest of the movie is like him in this the west town is called Dirt, the town of Dirt, and he's just sort of like kind of trying to fit in with this role of like a badass old west cowboy. He becomes sheriff of the town, tries to solve their water crisis.
There's a great scene there's a great scene involving the freaking hawk coming back.
Yeah. There's like, the big, chases on, bats and roadrunners. There's a big, shootouts, and, there's duels and espionage and, government plots. It's if you've seen like any movies set in this period, like if it's like your classic Magnificent Seven, or like the Man with No Name movies, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, those types of movies, like it basically hits like all the same marks that a lot of those movies do. This is basically like it's a best of cowboy movies. Like it just takes its inspiration from all over, and it manages to create something that's not overtly like a parody of like West movies. Like, it stands on its own as being just a very good movie within that setting, I believe. Because I mean, they do have, like, there's actually a scene in the movie, like I mentioned, one of the actual human characters that shows up. There's a vision that Rango has of the Spirit of the West, who is basically Clint Eastwood, but it's he's not voiced by Clint Eastwood. He's voiced by Timothy Olyphant, and he shares a scene with him. But like, he's driving around a golf cart with like Oscars like in the back caddy and stuff, So aside from like overt references like that, and then actually the other overt reference I forgot to mention is there's that cameo in the very beginning of the movie where
there's like an early cameo where Rango he like, just as like a little after he falls out of his little water cage. We probably should have mentioned that. Basically, he falls out of his water cage and into the plot of the movie. Before he does that, he like has a whole scene where he's like being hit around by cars, and one of the cars is
it's
the
fucking
guys from Fear and Loathing.
It's Raul Duke and Dr. Gonzo.
Thank you. I haven't seen that movie in years.
It's great because this movie's kind of based around Nevada, Las Vegas, so it's kind of in universe in a sense.
Yeah, it takes place in the Mojave.
You could say that this movie just takes place. It's like a what is the proper term for it? It's like an interquel, or like a movie that happens at the same time as another movie. This movie basically could happen at the same exact time as Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, because there's nothing to.
What I like about it is that there's actually like a scene of lizards in that movie when they drink it.
Yeah. And plus Rango, his initial outfit that he's wearing is that he's wearing that same. It's not exactly the same, but it's reminiscent of the shirt that Raul Duke wears in Fear and Loathing. Who, of course, that's Johnny Depp, who plays that character. I don't think we mentioned that. And he voices that cameo as well, which makes sense. And I think they got the likeness for Benicio del Toro for Dr. Gonzo, so that's fun. And it's funny because I haven't seen Fear and Loathing like in years either. I think like maybe the last time I saw it was in high school, but watching this and seeing that cameo did make me want to revisit it.
Yeah.
It's definitely a trip of a movie. Yeah, so that's the basic overall plot. So it's just I would say that it's just like it's a best of Western tropes and movies, but it stands on its own without being like a total like satire or parody of those movies.
Yeah.
Would you say that it had a twist villain, or was it just obvious from the beginning?
I think it was fairly obvious from the beginning.
Yeah. No, the turtle. I mean, yeah. Once you start seeing like he's got access to water and nobody else does, it's like okay, yeah, that guy's probably
probably pulling some strings. And then like after around Act 2 is the moment of like, oh, this guy's the real villain.
Yeah. I would say it's actually more of a twist that the villain that they introduce later in the movie turns out to actually help the heroes. Like that's more of a unexpected thing, especially with the portrayal of that villain, because I stand by fucking Bill Nighy's performance as Rattlesnake Jake, like as far as a villain in an animated movie. Not the science guy, the actor.
Okay, I had a moment of like, there's no way.
No. The actor, not the science guy. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, no, Rattlesnake Jake, God, what a fucking antagonist that dude was.
It was very reminiscent to me of like villains in Don Bluth movies, like from the 90s. He had that very much that sort of vibe to him, but like to the nth degree because of just like
I mean, he's a fucking rattlesnake who replaced the rattle on the end of his body with a Gatling gun.
Yeah.
That's all you really need to say. But on top of that, he's just like a generally like a really good just antagonist character.
I mean, the first thing he does is he pours a shot glass full of snake venom and offers it to Rango. It's like fucking he just shows up on the scene and does that. Like holy shit.
The rawest thing I think I've ever seen a villain do.
Yeah.
It was the same with the hawk had a metal beak. It was like a piece of metal.
Right. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. No, I remembered seeing it and I totally forgot about it. I thought that was a little bit unnatural. But yeah, that's like I mentioned some of the actors in the movie, but like all the performances here are great. Yeah, Johnny Depp is great in the main role as Rango, and basically because he's playing the actual the character, and then also the character that character is playing very well, because there's a very clear divide. Like he's putting on an act and then he's being himself, sort of thing. And he does both parts really well. Other notable names in this movie, there's Ned Beatty, Alfred Molina, Bill Nighy, not the science guy, Harry Dean Stanton, Timothy Olyphant, Stephen Root, who's
I was going to bring him up. Yeah.
Stephen Root's always a treat to hear in any animated project. He's great. And then just like even like the smaller bits, like I think they're all performed really well, and I think that does owe itself to the way that the movie was produced, being able to actually have all the actors on a set and not like in recording booths, like being able to actually act out the roles and being dressed up like in character and on actual sets, and then taking that reference material and actually creating the movie from that. It's like a very cool way of doing it that I would love to see like done again.
Very cool.
I mean, it's been done again in Devil May Cry 5, but I would really love it to see. Yeah, I'd love to see another movie do it, because it adds a lot more to the general character acting when you handle it in that way. Yeah,
I'd mentioned before recording that apparently this is not the first animated movie that did this method. Apparently 2004 Shark Tale also employed this method, but I didn't really care enough to go looking for any footage of that. Like I said, you can find footage of the Rango stuff on YouTube. I'm sure there's stuff for the Shark Tale thing too, but it's like, it's Shark Tale. I don't know that.
No matter how good the acting in Shark Tale no matter how alright the acting in Shark Tale was, that you ain't salvaging that movie.
Like even with a movie that has Jack Black in the main cast, I'm just like, and I love Jack Black. something that I totally forgot to mention, which is pretty important, is that this movie did win Best Animated at the Oscars. Admittedly, it's in a year that there was no Disney movies nominated. But yeah,
Good.
well, I mean, so let me see. It was up against. What was it up against? So the movie came out in 2011, so it would have been 2012 awards, the 84th Academy. The other movies it was up against were A Cat in Paris, Chico and Rita, Kung Fu Panda 2, and Puss in Boots. So, you know.
Yeah, Rango probably deserves it over all those. Haven't seen Chico and Rita.
It looks neat.
Yeah, those other movies look. I haven't seen Chico and Rita or Cat in Paris, but they definitely look neat. I wouldn't mind checking them out. But that's neither here nor there. It was the 5th non-Disney win for Best Animated, and it was the first non-Disney win since 2006 when Happy Feet took the award. And then it would be the last non-Disney movie to get that award up until Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah, in 2018, which is crazy to think about. Which, it's like, I know we shouldn't place too much importance on the Oscars, but like it does give it a lot of more mainstream sort of exposure, like when stuff gets that sort of award. And unfortunately, just the way that the Academy treats that award is basically just whatever Disney is up for an award that year. It, like, the big exception was Into the Spider-Verse, because they probably knew that like the attention that movie was getting was too great to ignore, to just give it to whatever Disney stuff was nominated that year. So yeah, honestly though, I would say like even on its own, like Rango definitely deserves for Best Animated, just based on that. Yeah, I mean, was there anything else like specific like in the movie that you guys wanted to talk about?
I think I'm good.
I don't really have much else to say. This goes beyond just being like a really good animated Western. That's one thing I'll say. Like, the Wild West as a setting is such a fun setting to play around with, and I'm sad that we rarely, if ever, see animation really do anything fun with it, if anything at all with it.
Yeah. Like, you'll get little like episodes and cartoons where they'll do like a Wild West episode, but as far as like theatrical stuff, like I can think of I know there's like a Lucky Luke like a feature film.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that one's actually like really good. But that's like one of the only ones I can really think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's probably some other examples out there potentially. If anyone listening remembers any, definitely hit us up in the comments on the YouTube or on any of our other platforms to definitely let us know. But yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a big recommendation from everyone here. Yeah, definitely go check out Rango. As of recording, it's on Netflix. If you get the Blu-ray, there is they bill it as an extended cut. But
that's what I wanted to say. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
It really gave me some American Tail vibes.
Yeah. 50 Goes West. Right. That's another like big. Okay. So that's one less one that somebody will fucking see as a glaring omission on our part.
Yeah. No, it really reminded me of it because there was like anthropomorphic like insects and shit. There were like spiders walking around, and that was kind of something in 50 Goes West. And pretty interesting stuff.
It's been like a long time since I've seen either of the American Tail movies, but I believe both of those are celebrating 20th and 25th anniversaries respectively this year. So we might be covering that later this year. Keep your ears peeled.
50 Goes West is awesome, but I don't think Bluth is attached to it.
Is he not?
No, I don't think so. I think he was booted from that one. I think he only did the first movie.
Oof. Well, we'll definitely explore that topic more if and when we cover those movies. Yeah, so that's definitely going to be a big recommendation from us. Yeah, like I mentioned, it's on Netflix. If you do want an extra like 2 minutes at the end of your movie, there's an extended cut on the Blu-ray. I'm sure you could probably find that cut somewhere else as well. But honestly, I feel like the movie is better with like the theatrical ending. That extended cut kind of is meant to like
nullify. it kind of nullifies the impact that the original theatrical cut ending has.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly there to potentially set up a sequel, which, you know, it's 10 years later and there hasn't been anything. Gore Verbinski did say that he doesn't have plans for a sequel, but he would like to do something else in animation. So honestly, with how well Rango turned out, I would definitely be up for him returning to, you know, the world of animation, especially if it's like, you know, with industrial lights and magic and stuff. Like, it seems to be a pretty good combo.
I looked up animated westerns and Home on the Range popped up. Yikes!
Oh God, I forgot about that movie.
I didn't know that was a western. I never seen that movie. I just assumed it was.
I forgot about it for good reason, but like,
yeah.
Because like I just saw like barnyard animals. I assumed it was like back at the barnyard or something.
It's an animated western, and it has can't think of that crazy guy.
Gary Busey.
No, the bad guy. It's the brother from Christmas Vacation. Tip of my tongue.
Shit! I couldn't tell you.
Damn.
If somebody remembers, hit us up in the comments. But yeah, definitely go check out Rango. It's absolutely worth watching. And yeah, that's gonna be it for us here on
Randy Quaid.
Oh God, you coming right at the fucking end of the Randy Quaid.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you for listening, guys. If you want to keep up with updates on the podcast, we have a Twitter, we have a Facebook, we have a Discord. On the Discord, we're always talking about, you know, different topics on, you know, the current episodes, past episodes, other stuff as well. And depending on where you're listening to this episode on, there's also other platforms. You know, if something else tickles your fancy, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music, we're on your major podcast platforms. And then yeah, that's it. So thank you for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. You can find all the links to our social media pages in the episode description. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and join our Discord. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. The Ink and Paint Club is happy to be part of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network. We'll see you next time.